Hey everybody, I hope and pray that you're doing well. Today as we come to our word from the Word, and today that word is reaction. Reaction. Now here as we're going to see today and tomorrow, we're going to see God's calling on Samuel's life. And I started to deal with this all at one time, but I think there's two distinct parts that we can take something from each day. And so, as we're looking at this story, Eli, we find out in the story that there's some things going on in Eli's life that are not right with him and his children, and God has news for him and for them. But He also has news for Samuel as well. So here now, Samuel, still being young, and now he's lying down. There's nobody else around but Eli and himself, and so he hears something. And we want to look today at his reaction. So in 1 Samuel chapter 3, you pick up about middle way, we're going to go to verse 4. He's laying down, and it says, verse 4, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, "Here am I," or "Here I am." Verse 5, so he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." And he said, "I did not call you. Lie down again." And he went and lay down. Now this happens several times before Eli realizes what's going on, so then he can give Samuel some advice. But more on that tomorrow. I could not help but think, this is the first time that God had called Samuel, and he didn't recognize who it was. He didn't realize that it was God that was calling him. He thought it was Eli. I mean, there's nobody else around. You hear your name called. Hey, it must be Eli calling me. So he runs on in there and, "Okay, I'm here. What do you need?" "What are you talking about? I didn't call you." So then you imagine the first time Samuel's probably thinking, "Okay, maybe I just imagined that." Well, the second and third time, by the third time you'd be thinking, "I know I'm not crazy. I know somebody is calling my name." But I could not help but think how often it happens that when God calls us, instead of answering Him, our initial reaction, this is where I got reaction from today, our reaction is to ask other people for their advice. Well, who do you think it was? What do you think God said? Do you think it was God? Do you think it was me? Do you think it was my imagination? That's not really the right reaction to have. I'm not saying it's not a reaction I've ever had in my life, and I'm sure it's it's something that we're all familiar with. But that it's as if we hear God speaking to us, and maybe not in audible voice like this, but that we hear God speak and we say, "Okay," and we start looking around, "What is it that you want me to do?" Now, God can speak through other people, and I'm not saying that He wouldn't do that or couldn't do that. We know God can use anybody and anything. I mean, you just go back and look. I mean, if He can talk through a donkey, I'm pretty sure He can use anything else. Just ask Balaam about that, right? But I mean, just to think, when God calls you, what's your initial reaction? Do you question it? Do you disregard it? Do you say, "I'm just thinking that it's Him because I heard the preacher say something about this the other week," or I heard this song on the radio, and that's why I'm probably thinking that He's calling me. Or, well, I happened to read this verse the other day, so now that I'm just thinking that He's talking to me today. Then we'll go to friends, and there's nothing wrong with going to friends for godly friends first, and there's nothing wrong with going to them for encouragement and for godly advice. That's why we need the church, right? Iron sharpens iron. We all come together and can help each other grow. But there's times where our reaction is not supposed to be, "Hey, buddy, hey, friend, hey, brother, sister, what do you think God is telling me?" No, our reaction needs to be, "God, what are you telling me?" So maybe today, if God is calling you, if you hear Him calling you to do something in your life, calling you to speak to someone else, calling you to go somewhere, to do something. I mean, it could be something to do with your family. It could be something to do with your job, with school, with church, with your community, whatever the case may be. If God's calling you, don't let your reaction first be to go to everybody else. Let your first reaction be to go to God. and just simply say, here I am. That's what Samuel said, but he had it going the wrong direction. Here, Eli, here I am. Instead, we need to say, God, here I am. So what's your reaction going to be today? God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.